Advice to incoming externs. I have 2 points to make. One is scheduling conflicts with all your classes. Make sure you plan out your classes to the full extent so you know exactly what days you're doing and how many hours a week you're going to be putting in. If possible, ask your placement advisor if you can up front do all your work or at the end do all your work. That way, when finals come around, you have extra time to study if you got all your hours done in the beginning. Also account for driving time. You know, some placements are farther than others, and school is not always as close as you think. So make sure, you know, try to keep it separate. Maybe work one day and the school next day. Another thing, I guess I'll go to my point two. Research current issues. You know, go to your placement knowing what's going on with their office, and that way it looks like you're a little bit more motivated and a little bit more concerned about the involvement that you're in. For example, like when I first started with the ACLU, I did a little bit of research to understand what was going on, and that way the legal director, she asked me if I had anything specific to do, and you know, I didn't at first because I didn't really know everything that went on, but she gave me the opportunity to dive into any situation I wanted. We had another extern that was with me. He was able to present a topic or issue that was going on in the community, and the legal director was fully supportive of his issue, and his whole time there he was spent doing that issue that he wanted to take care of.
I will be talking on how to get to know the attorneys in your office. The first way that you can get to know the attorneys in your office is to go to lunch with them. Oftentimes they will invite you out to lunch, and it may seem inconvenient or you want to work extra hours. But if you want to get to know them and you want them to know you so that they can assign you the projects that you would like to work on. And the best way to get to know them is to go to lunch with them. And there you can talk about your interests and what you like to do. The next suggestion I have is to stop by their office if their door is open. It may seem like there's a time crunch or something, but really, you know, everybody can spare a couple minutes to chat, and they would really appreciate the opportunity to get to know you. The next one is talking around the water cooler. I oftentimes am nervous to stop and talk around the water cooler because I don't want to be perceived as somebody who is slacking off and who's not in their office and isn't doing their work. But oftentimes when people are around the water cooler, they've already decided that they're going to take a couple minutes out of their day to chat with people in the office. They've already conceded that time, and it's a fun time to get to know your coworkers in a way that isn't so official. And so a great place to be is to talk around the water cooler. Next is to talk to the attorneys about what you're interested in when you're discussing a project that you're working on, whether at the beginning or the end of when you're working on that project, whether you're reporting on it or getting the assignment. Lastly, is when you have to go to a place off-site. Try to ride with the attorney if that's at all possible, because it's a good time, uninterrupted, that you can discuss with them your interests.
Hello, future externs. My first piece of advice to you is to be assertive about the type of work that you want to do while you're at your externship. Most of these placements offer a variety of legal work and handle a variety of issues. However, if you're not specific about the things you want to handle, then you'll probably get whatever is either lowest on the attorney's priority list or the work that they think is easy enough for law students to handle. So to avoid this trap, speak to your supervisor and tell them why you chose this placement and what you want to learn while you're there. For example, I worked at the Southern Nevada Senior Law Program, and they are a nonprofit organization that provides free legal services to low-income seniors. So when I went there, most of the attorneys there assumed that I wanted to do estate planning work. And while I did want to get some experience in that type of work, my true interest was learning how a nonprofit really operates. So I brought that up to my supervisor, and from that point on I got more involved with the administrative side of things, and I learned more about the grant process, which is a large part of what enables a nonprofit to continue its operations. So if I hadn't brought that up, I probably would have spent most of my time doing something that wasn't necessarily my interest. Also, if you end up not doing the types of work even after discussing it with your supervisor, it never hurts to remind them because they're busy people. Your externship is intended to benefit you, so be assertive and make your externship the experience that you want it to be.
Hello. One of the best pieces of advice I could give to incoming externs is to try to get as much of a variety of different assignments as you possibly can. Depending on what your placement is, a lot of the times you kind of get stuck in a rut where you're kind of getting the same assignments over and over again. I did a government externship this semester, and I noticed that a lot of times you're going to get a lot of research and writing assignments. So basically, you get a research assignment, and then you write like a memo to the attorney, kind of explaining what that is. And in the past, I've also done judicial externships where you're writing a lot of bench memos for the judge. And a lot of times, if you keep doing these assignments over and over again, they can become really repetitive. And at a certain point, you don't really get a whole lot out of it. You're getting a little bit bored, and you're not really learning as much. So I would really try to get as much of a variety as you can. And especially if you're a 3L, you could really take advantage of that because you could get your limited law practice. And I noticed at my placement, I got to appear in court, I got to negotiate settlements, I got to participate in administrative hearings. So it wasn't the same thing every day, and it really made the experience a lot more worthwhile. So I would really try to seek those out when you're at your placement and try to see what you can do so that you're not doing the same thing every day and that you're not kind of getting stuck in that rut. So for incoming externs, try to find as many different assignments as you can do.
So I have two pieces of advice for incoming externs. The first is don't be above any assignment that either your supervising attorney or another attorney gives you. Sometimes the assignments aren't going to be that interesting and they're not going to be what you think are important, but they can lead to better assignments later on. But they also show that you're a team player. And if you're not willing to do the assignment or you give an attitude, the supervising attorney or the requesting attorney might not want to come back to you later for work, and they might consider you to have a bad attitude, and that's going to reflect poorly later on if you need a recommendation from that placement, or if you are looking for a summer position or a position later on. So it's important not to be above any assignment, even though you want a variety and you want to make sure that you're working on things that are interesting to you. It really shows that you want to be a valuable resource and a team player. So my second piece of advice is about work management. When your faculty supervisor or another attorney brings you an assignment, you should always ask them when the deadline is, how long they think it will take, and let them know if you have any other assignments that you're working on. That way, they have an idea of what to expect from you and an idea of what your workload is, so that if you do have any difficulties, they'll be a little more understanding. The second part of that is if you're not going to meet the deadline that they set for you, you need to make sure that you meet with them and let them know that you're not going to get that assignment done in time, and see what advice they have for maybe speeding the process along. Or if it's taking longer than they expect, like for example, you ask what time they would expect you to be done, and say they tell you it would maybe take them a week or a few days to do, and you're finding that it's taking you longer to do that, you can go to them and get advice on how to speed the process up or what they do to help move their research along in areas.
Next, I will be talking about how to get your questions answered, or basically how to solve a problem when you are confused and don't know where to go. I have had many research projects this semester, and oftentimes I don't know if I'm finding the right information or if I'm looking in the right places. And I found that I was foolish when I didn't ask the attorney what to do. Oftentimes they had advice on where to look and what resources to use. An easy way to go talk to them is to just set a time every day in which you're going to go discuss the project with them, especially if it's a long-term project. I would recommend asking questions such as, which websites would you use to look this up in? Is there another book that's helpful? What keywords have you used to search for this topic? Or what similar research have you done on this topic? I found that oftentimes they're able to come up with better keywords than what I knew how to use, and they also are very willing to give me good advice on what I should do and what things I should look at to find the correct answers for the questions. Secondly, sometimes you feel like your research isn't sufficient or you're just not finding what you need to find. And the best way to address this is to go in and talk to the attorney about what you have found. And if you keep good records, it's easy to point out what things you have found, and then they are able to look at those things that you have found and find any holes in things that you have not looked up yet.
So another really good piece of advice that I would give to externs who are starting out a new placement is to make time every once in a while to kind of check your overall progress with your supervisor. So the externship program itself is going to kind of mandatorily make you have meetings with your supervisor, for example, goals and agendas and an exit interview. But if you only do it those 2 times, then you're really not probably going to get the most out of your experience. So I noticed that setting weekly or bi-weekly meetings where I would just kind of wander into my supervisor's office, sometimes that was the best way I really got my assignments. I got some of the best assignments just from doing that. And you also get to check your progress. You get to see if you're doing a good job. You get to see if there's anything you need to improve. You get to see if maybe there's something that you were hoping that you would get to do, but you haven't got a chance to do it yet. You kind of give them reminders. And a lot of times the attorneys, especially if you get a good supervisor, they really take that as a challenge. They'll start to look for ways to kind of help you out to get you interesting things to do. Sometimes they'll check their agenda and say, I have a hearing coming up. Maybe I'll have you help me out with it, or I have a new brief that I need to write. Why don't you take a shot at it? And just going in there and meeting and just kind of brainstorming with your supervisor is a great way to get the most out of your experience. So for incoming externs, try to make time every once in a while to go in and check in with your supervisors.
My final piece of advice to externs is to take on more work than you're asked to do. This is especially important if you're looking to get some sort of postgraduate or summer position with the externship placement that you're currently in. Taking on more than you're asked to take on will establish yourself as a proactive and go-getter person and leave a great reputation on the people in your office, whether they be your supervisors or your coworkers. This is particularly important for many of you because it might be your first experience in the legal professional world. So you want to definitely get your reputation off to a good start and establish that you're hardworking, responsible, and determined. This also benefits you in that once you do apply for another position, if you're not looking to continue on with that placement, you'll get good references or good recommendations from the people you work with. Finally, if you do just sit around and wait for projects to drop in your lap, it won't have nearly as beneficial effects for your future career or your externship experience. If you get things dropped in your lap, it's often because they're on a time crunch and a deadline, so you'll be a lot more pressed for time and you'll be a lot more stressed trying to finish that project than you would be if you had gone in a few days earlier to ask that person for an assignment. So being proactive helps not only your current experience but also your future career. So take initiative and make sure that your externship gives you the great experience you are looking for.